I don't even know of the little flower. I only say it.
Yeah.
Come on.
And I grabbed that.
Yeah. That's in Spanish.
I like it. It's, you know.
They both are. This one is Spanish.
People,
Do you want the?
like, when I was born, in the 60s, most people named like.
Yeah, yeah, Lynn was
That was
really popular, lots of.
Yeah, I'm going in. I'll look right now. Yeah,
Yeah, my kids think it's like the weirdest.
I'm looking right now.
I'm like, oh.
Wait, I don't need your options.
Oh, you don't?
No, I'm just going.
All right then.
Is it up?
It is live. One watching.
Yeah.
Are you driving or taking the metro?
Oh,
Okay. So it must have been,
are they gonna
it must have
speak?
been live earlier.
Oh, it's got Lindsay in like close up.
Oh, I feel like every time we do this, I'm always like front and center and very embarrassed.
You're good. It's about a minute back because it's showing her
Oh.
thing now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's about a minute. All right.
Where are you coming from? What neighborhood? What area? Oh, holy cow, that's far. I just drove from Whitney Young to Rogers Park the other day and I had to go to Whitney Young for something. And I was like, I know, like that was my point. That was bad enough. Like, it's gonna take.
Thank you for doing
It took
the
like 45 minutes.
secretary thing.
Like, hopefully it's
Thorough enough.
to get here in the morning.
And then when it snows, we look at
So like, no, yeah, it's terrible. I'm definitely not fond of.
Are you gonna move it so we don't look?
No, it's, you can't move it. It's like right here.
I would like to have a corner where I can watch both entrances. That's my.
Spoken from a true security guard.
Yeah, always wanna have a good, both entrances.
That's what I say about my house. Caleb's gonna come down there, or I was gonna come down. Okay.
I caught every.
And now you're gonna have to go. I couldn't resist.
All right. Get started. All right.
I want to ask interpreter if she wants to do an announcement before.
Yeah. Do you wanna,
Did you call Rocky?
Yeah, okay.
Ask her to.
Do-
If she could.
can you, so you wanna do an announcement real quick, maybe? I'm sorry? Yeah, if you don't mind. No, just, there's no microphone. You can just like right here, yeah. This is. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. It is now 3:40. My name is Matthew Kwame, and we'll do some introduction in a minute. Welcome all to today's local school council regular meeting. Before we get started, I'd like to really quickly go over our meeting norms. So we decisions to be open to others, to other people's truths and perspectives, be reminded of differences in cultural and social backgrounds, be transparent about concerns, challenges, and misunderstandings, be reflective, collaborative, and supportive, and to always take the work back to student achievement. What can we do to make things better for our students, both academically and socio-emotionally? To respect student, staff, and LSC member confidentiality unless there's a threat to safety. And meetings should be paused if LSC members or meeting participants experience harm due to their identity, including but not limited to gender, sexual orientation, race, etc. The harm should be named. Understand that not everything has a right now solution, and trust that the process is ongoing. So with that, we'll do a roll call. Matthew Kwame, the parent representative.
Lori Zamey, principal.
Adolfo Ramirez. Now start.
Nicole Granicki, parent representative.
Keith Bjorkland, parent representative.
Kathleen Hayes, parent representative.
Lindsay Moon, parent representative.
And today we have one of the members of our LSC joining via phone. Bracky, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. All right. Thank you. The second item on the agenda is the approval of the order of the agenda. So usually what we do a couple of days before the meeting, we share the agenda with the general public and prior to that internally. And so can I, oh, sorry. Maybe someone can like to make a motion to approve the order of the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, any opposed? Thank you. The motion passes.
Matthew, one thing, I think
Yes.
we need to vote to allow Rocky to participate. in the
Right.
Vote
It
remotely.
keeps dropping too, so it's a little bit spotty.
Okay, I can motion.
Yeah, so I was gonna,
It's on here. Oh, later. Okay.
well, it's number 3 on the, we could
But it's okay.
perhaps just
She
say,
can still listen, but
Okay.
not vote.
right?
Okay.
Hey, are you going in and out of an airplane or something?
That's okay. I'll just try to listen.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. All right, so the next item on the agenda is items needing council approval. And we moved some of these to accommodate for different schedules. The first item is a motion to approve the minutes from the May 25th regular meeting. Can I get a motion?
A motion to approve the minutes from the May 25th, 2023 regular meeting.
Can I get a second?
A second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. The next item is to approve the minutes from the July 13th. It actually wasn't the regular meeting, it was a oh yeah, how do you say that? Organizational meeting. My apologies, there's a typo there. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 13th organizational meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. The third item is a vote to approve the LSC bylaws. So a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even more further than that,
On the 17th.
I already wrote that. I should have said August 17th. So the bylaws or Nicole from the bylaws committee shared with us updated bylaws, and one of the items in there was actually apropos for this call is to allow, I believe, members of the LSC to join remotely when necessary. There are other items in there, so I don't know if we want to discuss them, but so the idea here is to vote to approve those bylaws. So I don't know if there's any discussion that we want to get into about the the content or the changes that we made before we go into a vote.
Do we have the new bylaws in the folder?
I think it's just in, I don't know if it's on the folder, if it's in your email, you know.
It's definitely in the email.
Okay.
Folder, I'm not sure. I would have to double check.
I don't think so.
Okay. We can put those up once, so, you're right. Anybody wants to make a motion?
I will motion to approve the updates to the bylaws as shared with the LSC on August 17th.
I'll second. Any discussions? Okay. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? One, thank you. The next item is a vote on budget transfer limits threshold for LSC approval. Up until now, approval from the LSC is not necessary for amounts not greater than $1,000. So I think we want to increase that limit. So Laura, you want to perhaps just give us a.
Yeah. So we've done this each year. Last year, council voted to approve that the limit would increase to $5,000 and that the all budget transfers would be shared with the LSC, even if they are, made under $5,000. So I will make a motion to request an increase on the transfer limits to be $5,000 instead of $1,000.
Does it reset every year?
Every year we have to.
So we got
a second.
a motion, okay? Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, very good, thank you. Next on the agenda, so a slew of exciting and upcoming events and requests. So these are fee-based programming or temporary leasing agreements that we need to get into for different events to occur and programs to be run on campus. I can say that. So there's a number of them, and for these items, some forms are provided to ask for, to request that these programs be offered. So I don't know, do we want to go through? Yeah,
We have to go through each one. So I'll start with the first one. So Imagine Performing Arts has asked if they can host a fee-based after-school program. I explained to them that we need a leasing agreement and approval from the LSC. A small portion of any of their revenue comes back to the school, similar to our other after-school fee-based programs. So I will make a motion to approve a temporary leasing agreement with Imagine Performing Arts for fee-based after-school programming. Second.
all in favor? Oh, sorry.
I just was wondering, is Rocky there? When do we want to
So,
vote her into the
hold on.
meeting?
So she said, okay, so hold on, let me try and call again.
Oh, okay.
It just keeps dropping.
Gotcha.
Hi there, it's us again. Can you hear us? Okay. So we're going, okay.
It's gonna get cut off again. Is it possible for me to just listen in on YouTube? Because that was actually doing really well. I could hear everything.
Yeah, that's fine. So at some point when it comes to voting though, so there's a bit of a lag. So when it comes to voting, we'll have to call you in, okay?
No problem.
Very good.
So this is a vote right now.
Yeah, so actually,
Let's see if it stays open.
so it is on right now. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. All right, so the next item is the basketball league.
Well, we have to finish the first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Does she know that we're voting right now? I think.
Right, that's right. Yeah, that's what I told her. So we're voting right now.
Okay, I'll stay on.
Okay.
Sorry, we have to vote to allow her to participate.
Oh, so she has to go away. No. Does she have to, she can just listen.
Okay.
confused about that process.
Yeah, we need to allow her to be remote
Yeah.
Okay,
and all voting in agreement.
but does it need to be as an item on the agenda before we can vote on it?
Yes.
My understanding was that if we put it in the vote to approve the LSC bylaws, which includes that clause, that was taking care of it, no?
Oh, I think in the bylaws, it says that you have to vote.
That we have to vote,
Allow people to
okay,
participate remotely.
So that would be the reference to it, if it wouldn't have to be in this if we're referring to the bylaws. Or we still need a,
we have that as an agenda item. Yeah, it needs to be an agenda item. All right. Yeah, that's fun,
We should just
okay,
keep it as a standing agenda.
okay,
Yeah. Okay, so we can't,
So she can't.
participate.
okay. So Rocky, I'm gonna send you a text, but you need to switch back to YouTube, okay? All right. All right, so now we know.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning it.
Do you want a chair to sit here? You can, but if that will be easier for you, you can come sit here. Yeah, yeah, no. Thank you so much.
Oh, just pull that off.
We take you anywhere.
Letty, you can come closer. You can come closer. You're fine.
All right. So we got through no, we didn't get
No,
through
we
the
just have
first
to
item
finish
yet.
the vote on Imagine.
Okay, so we had motions, we had seconds. So now we can vote. Okay, so all in favor? All opposed? Thank you. The motion passes. The next one is Peirce Basketball League.
So the Friends of Peirce would like to resume the parent basketball league on some selected Friday evenings. For this to happen, it's just a leasing agreement, not a fundraising approval. So I will make a motion to approve a temporary leasing agreement with Friends of Peirce to host the Friday night basketball league.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? No. All right. Thank you. The motion passes. Next one. The Move-a-thon. Fall edition.
So Friends of Peirce submitted a fundraising proposal for Move-a-thon, which is on Friday, September 29th. This one does not require a temporary leasing agreement. And with proceeds going to support future arts-based partnerships. So I'll make a motion to approve the annual Move-a-thon on Friday, September 29th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Right. Any opposed? Thank you. Passes. Next,
Peirce Service Organization in collaboration with the school and PSO being a subcommittee of Friends of Peirce, would like to support the school with hosting the annual book fair. One being October 23rd to 26th. I'll start with that one. And then proceeds would go back to purchase books for kids, classrooms, and the library. So I will make a motion to approve the spring, the fall book fair from October 23rd to 26th.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor? Good.
The next one is the spring book fair to happen April 8th to 12th. The proceeds would also go back to purchase book for students, classrooms, and library. And again, co-hosted between PSO and the school. I will make a motion to approve the PSO, the spring book fair from April 8th to 12th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Next item.
Fall Festival also hosted with Peirce Service Organization and in collaboration with Friends of Peirce to take place on October 21st. This would be for a temporary leasing agreement and for a fundraising proposal, and all profit go back to FOP to support school programs and community events. So I will make a motion to approve the fundraising proposal for the Fall Fest on October 21st.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor?
And then,
Oh,
sorry,
you're good. The motion passes. Go ahead.
and then I'll make a motion to approve a temporary leasing agreement with Friends of Peirce with PSO for for October 21st for Fall Fest.
Do we have a time?
Yes. Time?
For,
What am I talking?
I think it's 1 to 5.
Thank you. I think you're right. 1 to 5.
the fourth,
1 to 4.
1 to 4.
that was a motion, right?
That was a motion.
Second,
So, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. One more item.
Then the last one is the Valentine's Day dance to take place with Peirce Service Organization in collaboration with Friends of Peirce on February 8th, with proceeds going back to support school programs and community events. I will make a motion to approve the fundraising proposal.
Second,
The only question is, do we know the tentative date?
Yes, February 8th.
Thank you.
2024.
Yeah. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. The motion carries. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is a CIWP presentation and discussion, and I think we have some guests to go through that.
Okay. First, I'd like to introduce Latasha Randall, who's our resident principal. She'll be working alongside of myself in the school until the end of the school year. I'm wondering if council members maybe want to move like this way, or can folks see the TV okay?
I don't think the people.
Or if you can't see it, if you want to like shift over a little bit so that you can.
I'm also happy with where if that makes it easier because.
Are we good?
Yeah.
We don't have them today.
All right, so myself, Kristen, and Sam will go over a high-level overview of the CIWP as part of our work with Dr. Fisher last year. And the year before, one of the areas of focus was to create a more inclusive process when developing our CIWP. And there were a series of recommendations that were made that we really tried to anchor ourselves in as we entered into it. It was a little bit challenging because of the timeline extending into the summer months, instead of being something that happens only in the school year. And so just being able to engage staff, families, and students during the summer is not always the easiest, but we really tried to be creative and do the best that we could, but acknowledge that there's also opportunity to improve as we move forward. So what is the CIWP? It is now a 3-year strategic plan to help guide all of the work that's happening in the school, from professional development to budget to just like different things or initiatives that we want to get off the ground. And we develop it using data. So student performance data, any, other qualitative data that we receive, like surveys or just feedback that we've received over time, things that have been trends in discussions with various stakeholders. And so we use that to help anchor the work that we would like to adventure into over the next 3 years. And it's a document that is not necessarily going to be stagnant. It can be constantly changing over time. If we realize that the path that we initially set really isn't the right direction, we can shift course. So the team this year was assembled in May and was shared via our school newsletter on the platform SMORE. And it included myself, Kristen Munoz as a representative of the instructional leadership team. One of the members from MTSS, either Tiffany Brugman, Athanasia Collins-Forrest, or Ginny Gerhardt would take turns attending. Sometimes more than one of them would attend. But because of the summer planning, everybody wasn't available all the time. We had Nana Adu, who is one of our school counselors representing, student groups and support for student groups. Shelton Jackson and Liz Fonte were both here to support the connectedness and well-being domain. And Annie Park, one of our school counselors, also sort of like helping us reflect on our work with post-secondary success. We were able to engage with members of the Bilingual Advisory Council. So they identified one member, which sort of was between two also. So Bianca Jimenez as a parent, but then also Joshua Lerner, who's our bilingual lead teacher. Both of them were here to keep the Bilingual Advisory Council and the thinking around our English language learners at the core of the work. And then Bon Wade was a member of the Racial Equity Parent Group that would consistently attend meetings. And we had asked if they could send one person to represent them. And we also had Matthew Plumman, who's the chair of the local school council as a part of our committee, and Kim Leibovitz and Sam Lee, our two IB coordinators. Sam's also assistant principal. And so the people that are here are really looking at things from a very high level. We engaged quite a bit with our instructional leadership team as we dug into the curriculum and instruction domain. I just want to express my gratitude, especially for the parents that showed up to spend countless hours on giving us feedback and working through what really is a very challenging and somewhat confusing process at times. If you're not in the world of education, like some of this is like really hard to like process very quickly, whereas like those of us in it every day can just like talk education speak very naturally. And so we are seeing that like there's a lot of sort of like room to like help bring people up to speed in terms of like the educational language that we use. So the process included forming a team, and then there's 5 foundations that we had to reflect on. The district used to have, it was like close to 14. They narrowed it down and created 5 large areas. And those being curriculum and instruction, the inclusive and supportive learning, connectedness and well-being, post-secondary success, and partnerships and engagement. From there, we had to determine at minimum, well, it was encouraged to develop 2 priorities. Like we had to have at least 2 priorities, but no more than 3. And so the 3 priority areas that we focused on were curriculum and instruction, inclusive and supportive learning, and the district guidance was that at least one of them had to come from what's called the instructional core. But we decided on both of them. And then partnerships and engagement was the 3rd area of focus. Once we identified our priority areas, through a reflection on the work. So it started with identifying what was the root cause of the problem that we identified. What would be that area of action? So like what do we think we can do in order to make change so that that problem is no longer a problem, or so that we can make improvement towards helping solve that problem? Developing an implementation plan, and then establishing goals. And so this is what you'll see, like the goal setting and the theory of action will be the 2 things that we really talk about today. The entire document is linked here, and it's been shared with the community several times via SMORE, and we'll have it on the homepage of the website as well. And I believe I added a link in the LSC folder for today as well. A couple of things to note is that there's these three things on the side. Peirce no longer receives Title I funds. So we do not have to do a fund compliance, whereas schools that do receive Title Is have to do that in partnership with their parent advisory council. And then if you receive those funds, then you also have to have a family engagement plan. And so in years past, we would do that, but the last 3 years that we have not had Title I funds, then we don't create that plan. But we acknowledge that still engaging families is important work, and so that's not something that we're losing sight of. And then the last thing is that the plan has to go to the local school council to be voted on. And it'll be a vote, we'll vote later on today on whether or not to accept the plan as it currently is. Today is not the day for us to make revisions to the plan. It's just a day for us, we can share, we can discuss. And then we would have to determine, do we agree or not that this is what we want to do. So the work that we did to really engage stakeholders was one with students. This is one we want to amp up in years to come, as you'll see student voice is a part of our improvement plan. But we were able to host, Kim and Sam were able to host some focus groups with students at the end of the year to get their perspective on some things that we saw with Cultivate survey data. Families over the summer, Kristen and Sam were able, because we had students coming in for summer programming, they were able to do some informal check-ins with families to get feedback on their experience in terms of like, what do they know about, what their child is learning, what does their child say about their experience at school, and so forth. And then we held 4 sessions during the month of August, at the beginning of the month and at the end of the month, 2 virtual and two in-person sessions. And then the recording of those virtual sessions were shared with the entire school community via email, along with a survey for feedback. The feedback survey is it has been shared with the local school council as well. And then with staff, the ILC created the theory of action and flushing out that domain of curriculum and instruction. And they all had an opportunity to review the plan during the beginning of the year PD and provide feedback. So I've already mentioned our 3 priority areas. We're going to dig into each of them, starting with Sam.
All right, hello, everyone. So as a team, our instructional leadership team made up of teachers, we arrived, when looking at the data, we arrived at our student-centered problem, which is students are not making expected growth on current assessment system. Some students start on grade level and end off grade level, while others start off grade level and stay off grade level. So that was what we grounded ourselves in, and then we completed the root cause analysis. We arrived at the lack of common understanding and expectations on standards aligned, rigorous, differentiated tasks. And then we created a theory of action. So we feel like if we create standards aligned, rigorous, differentiated tasks, then we see all students accessing grade level content, which leads to tier 1 instruction that meets the needs of all students. These are our implementation milestones. So milestone number 1 being that all teachers will engage in professional development on how to create those set tasks to be rigorous and differentiated. Milestone number 2 is all teachers using rigorous differentiated tasks to deliver their tier 1 instruction in class. Milestone 3 is 100% of teachers with students that are EL are providing tier 1 instruction using characteristics of high quality English language teaching. And then we are tracking our goal through a performance goal. So there are 4 ways we're tracking it in the 3 years. So STAR is a test that we take 3 times a year for 3rd to 8th grade. And so for STAR reading, our last year, our baseline was 64%. We're at or above, and we're trying to increase that each year. So at the end of FY26, we're projecting that 80% of our students are at or above. And then for STAR math, we were at 62% this past year, this last school year, and then In school year 26, we're trying to be at 78% of our students are at or above. And then we are looking specifically at subgroups in the same test. And so the subgroup for reading for students that have English language needs, we're at 59% last year. And we are hoping that in school year 26, it will be 74%. And then for math, they were 60% this past year. And we're hoping for 75 at or above. With the performance goal, we're also looking at certain practices that we want to hold on to. And so we're going to look at this across in each row. And so this row here is for ILT to develop a professional development plan for our teachers to engage in, to provide standards aligned, rigorous and differentiated tasks. And then at the end, for school year 26, 100% of returning teachers will have engaged in TV on standards aligned, how to deliver them. Okay. And then in this row here, looking across, we're hoping to look and walk through our classes to gather data on where we are with standards aligned, rigorous, differentiated tasks. And at the end in school year 26, 100% of returning teachers are using rigorous, differentiated tasks to deliver instruction. And then the last row here, we are at the beginning of the year, we provide PDs every year for our teachers on tier 1 English language student support based on the whole state professional development module in response to the training around the school. And we're in school year 26, 100% of return teachers will, with students that are providing tier 1 instruction using characteristics of high quality English language teaching. Anyone who passes to Maria.
So I'm going to give us our overview of our inclusive priority 2, which is our inclusive and supportive learning environment. So first is our student-centered problem. Is after reviewing the MTSS data, we saw that many English learners make progress after receiving tier 2 or tier 3 interventions, but once those interventions are removed, students regress on the benchmark assessment. So the root cause that we identified is that there was a lack of MTSS monitoring processes that continued through 8th grade, along with establishing clear expectations for support systems for teachers in 5th through 8th grade on implementation of tier 2 and tier 3 interventions and guidance for teachers in pre-K through 4th on tier 2 interventions. And just a quick overview, MTSS is our multi-tiered system of support, and so that's when we get that language around tier 2 and tier 3. I think Sam was speaking to tier 1, which is that instruction that all students receive, and tier 2 and tier 3 is differentiated instruction that happens at smaller subsets of students. So our theory of action is if we develop an MTSS committee that creates a system to support the training and development of teachers on the use of the tiered intervention, then we will see tiered interventions implemented across classrooms, which leads to an increase of students scoring on grade level via benchmark assessment. So for our implementation milestones, our first milestone would be that the MTSS team will be fully operational in systems and infrastructure. And the language of fully operational comes from an MTSS rubric that we use from the district to help align where our performance was at prior to this or last year, and where we'd like our performance to be over the 3 years. And implementation milestone 2 would be that the MTSS team and staff will be fully operational in the use of grid design to document interventions. And implementation milestone 3 is that all staff will be trained on how to use the request for referral form. And the final implementation milestone, which is milestone 4, teachers will engage in ongoing training related to the inclusive practices with a focus on complete. So for our performance goals, our first performance goal is to increase the percentage of students who receive tier 2, tier 3 interventions in reading or math, who have identified goals with progress monitoring that are monitored in a range of months and will meet those targets.
And the wording of this is a little funky. It's not to increase the number of students who are receiving interventions, but of those who are receiving interventions, we want to increase their progress toward meeting those goals. And so our baseline was 57%, and we would like our end goal to be at 90%. Then our next two goals are actually aligned. One is broken down by math, and the other one is by reading. So specifically, the math has increased in the percentage of students performing an intervention or urgent intervention according to the beginning of year STAR assessment will have positive tier movement according to the end of year STAR benchmark report. So we're starting at our baseline for math at 33% and ending at 70%, but by school year 26. And then for this, it's the same goal, but just specific to reading, using our beginning year data, which of our STAR benchmark assessment, which are K-3 through K. And using the end of year assessment as a data marker. And for reading, we're at 28%, and our goals at the end of school year 26 to be at 60%. So our practice goal, again, same with sharing, we want to read across. So the first goal is specific to the individual leadership team, that their end of year ratings fall and develop or higher in at least 6 out of 8 categories of the MTSS continuum. And by the end of the 3-year for school year 26, we would fall in develop or higher in 8 out of 8 categories in the MTSS continuum. Our next goal would be to utilize school personnel to utilize universal screening data to develop and implement student plans and identify goals and branching lines. And through the years, we want to increase the uses of branching lines, and then also logging our interventions and having goals in each of those content areas and all of the information in branching lines. And then our last goal is that teacher teams will review student behavior data on a quarterly basis, disaggregated by IEPs, individualized education plan, race, gender, and English learner. And then by the end of the year 26, the goal will be that teacher teams will review student behavior data on a quarterly basis, disaggregated by IEP, race, gender, and EL. So those are actually the same across the 3 years.
And the last priority is really focused on student voice, which is, I've been sharing with everybody the most exciting to me component of our current CWP plan. And the one that is going to really push our thinking, I think, more than any of the other work, about how do we actually do this in a very authentic way. So our student-centered problem is that students are not fully engaged in classroom and school decision-making. And the root cause being that there's a lack of common vision, language, training, and expectations for adults working with students on how students can be engaged in classroom and school decision-making. And so we are looking to create a student voice steering committee that will start as adults to really help begin this work, but ultimately become a student collaborated with steering committee that supports the development of a common vision, language, training, expectations related to engaging students in class and school decision making. And we feel that if we do that, we will see classroom and school-wide structures that are intentionally planned to include and develop student voice and leadership, which will lead to an increase of student voice and agency in class and school decisions. And so the 3 key milestones that we've established are anchored in the district's student voice rubric, which was linked in the presentation. And some of the language may be a little confusing, similar to the MTSS, because they're language of education. It's in this case specific to CPS. But there's a domain of the student voice infrastructure called listening, where we are actively seeking out input and trying to hear from students and their experiences at school. And so we want to score in the meeting range, and there's a list of benchmarks that we would need to meet in order to be considered meeting, so that we can really move forward with doing this in a meaningful way. The second one is in that same rubric. There's a collaborative domain which is where we're really looking at collaborating with students, not just listening to them, but collaborating on the classroom and school-wide structures, engaging them in discussions and problem solving and development of work when there are issues that we identify. What does this look like and sound like and feel like from the student perspective? So to fall in the meeting range of the collaboration domain. And then the third one being that the students in milestone 3 are actually leading a lot of the work at the school, and we want to fall in the meeting range. And one of our goals is that come the next CIWP cycle, there's more students involved and a part of the actual committee of the CIWP, because we acknowledge that the student's perspective was not as heavily involved in this particular one, but we'd really like to center students and their experience at the core of all of our development. And so the two metrics from a performance goal that we're looking to measure are, there's a Cultivate survey that students take 3 times a year, beginning, middle, and end. And on the student voice domain, at the end of the year last year, our score was at 61. We have a goal of being by school year 26 at 76. The second one is to decrease the percentage of students with an IEP and students of color who are referred for discipline. We really feel that the student voice component is a way for us to understand the connectedness that students of color, students with IEPs have with the school staff, and just like with the policies and procedures that we have in place. And so we want to look at what we've seen is an over referral of students of color and students of IEPs in the referral process. We don't suspend, but we are seeing a lot of classroom referrals coming from both of those groups from teachers. And so students with IEPs, 44% of referrals last year were for students with an IEP. We'd like to decrease that to 14% come school year 26. 14% is more in alignment with what our school population is in terms of students with IEPs. And then students of color, 78% of the referrals last year, end of the year data, were for students of color, and we're at approximately half of the students in our school are students of color. So we are above what that is, and we'd like to decrease that to 48% come school year 26. And I want to acknowledge that during like the work that we've done over the last couple of years, student discipline and the over referral of students of color and students with IEPs has been a huge point of discussion. And I've been sharing with the LSC on a regular basis what that data is, and we haven't seen significant shifts. And so in the focus groups with families have said, like, look, we know that this has been an issue, this is important to us, but we don't see it in your CIWP. And so this was the biggest revision that we made, was making sure that while we know that what we were doing was going to lead to this, we didn't initially establish specific goals. And so this CIWP is now integrating that into it so that we can be held accountable to like really like living and doing what we said we wanted to do. And then this is something that teachers will constantly be asked to reflect on, which is what Kristen had shared. We know we've provided a significant amount of training. We've done a lot of work with restorative practices, and even with those two like key pieces, there has not been a huge shift. And so we see the student voice component and really listening to students' perspective as being a way for us to understand how connected our students feeling to their teachers in the school, and sharing that specific data back with teachers as one way for us to like maybe think a little bit differently than what we've been doing historically at Peirce. So shifting into practice goals, so the performance goals are sort of these metrics that we can measure. Practice are like the practices that we will engage in. In school year 24, students will create a pre-K-8 survey or tool to monitor current state and future state goals. And then that survey would continue to be administered each year of our CIWP cycle. And this is where we can really get students to identify the questions and things that they really want us to think about and work on and help to inform And we've done this in years past where the students have come to the LSC, shared their result findings with teachers, and it really shifted practice and created a lot of awareness about what the students' experience was, and we want to go back to that practice. And then the student voice hearing committee will meet on a monthly basis at minimum and create a plan for developing student voice school-wide. Shifting to the CIWP team includes student participation. And then the last set of practice tools for this is that the school leadership team seeks out and collects perspectives of students most impacted by their solutions to problems they are trying to solve, and that we are looking at the targeted universalism framework from CPS, and that we are continuing to do that in all 3 years. So we don't have the fund compliance and family action plan. The next steps for us as a school, once the LSC chooses to hopefully approve the CIWP, is that we will work with our ILT to finalize our professional development plan for the school year. This is the first year we entered where our PD plan was not complete because we didn't know what our final priorities were going to be. So we've got some ground to make up. And then the CILWP team will meet on a quarterly basis to check in and see where we at and monitor progress towards the goals that we established. There's like deadlines, so not all of this is going to happen this year. Some of it, in the actual document lists out what will happen in school year 24, 25, and 26, because we can't do it all at one time, but we want to, continue to make progress. So that concludes the presentation on the CILWP.
Thank you, Lori. So this section here is for presentation and discussion. So just want to open up to the council and see if there are any questions. Well, first, again, thank you both for the presentation. Actually, all 3 of you.
Can I make a suggestion about questions? Is it possible to go priority area
That's what I was thinking.
by priority area?
Sure.
I had a question about priority 1.
Yeah.
Or, well, let me see.
Go ahead.
So in priority 1, there's the verbiage of differentiated and rigorous tasks. And I guess I'm wondering, is there a working definition of what differentiated and rigorous tasks means?
So in the overall document, that's one thing that we're doing as an action step, is to first establish as a staff what a common definition and understanding of what it looks like and sounds like in the classroom. And we're going to start that action step actually this Friday, next Friday, special development for all our staff. So we don't have it yet because we have to engage our staff and we'll come to a common understanding.
But there are things that are going to guide us to get there as a staff. So we are referencing professional articles, like definitions to help anchor us and move us forward so that collectively we have that common understanding.
I just wanted to second that. I mean, that question, you obviously just answered it, but it was a question I had just based on the staff feedback. There were quite a few questions I noticed in the teacher feedback about, what is rigor? I remember having that conversation when I was a teacher. So I just wanted to piggyback on Keith's to kind of affirm his question. And then I noticed other teachers asked, or they said in their feedback, something to the effect of, if the professional development is high quality, this is great. So my question is, what is the plan for professional development? Who will facilitate it? Who will be the provider of that?
So our, it is not finalized, but it's really being created from our teacher team, our ILT team that's gonna look at the professional development plan on how we're gonna roll that out for our staff. And we're currently looking at like a piece of literature saying for our work regarding, college titles.
So it sounds like the ILT will lead the PD, am I, okay.
Some might be schools, some might be districts. It depends on like what specific things we really need to hone in on a little bit. We are anchoring the work in Bloom's taxonomy and depth of knowledge as two tools, so that we can get teachers to understand what both of those tools are, especially as it comes to rigor. And then getting them to analyze tasks and develop tasks so that they're reaching the higher levels of both of those. But also acknowledging that we're not always going to be in the higher range. Like there's opportunity to be in DOK 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Like we're not going to just always fall on the higher end, but that we should have majority of tasks should really push some rigorous thinking.
And then similarly, I was wondering, if you can explain more of what a rigor walk is, or how you perceive that playing out.
Yeah, that's a great question. So our ILP will get together and on points out what we're looking for in regards to rigor, and then we'll walk through the classroom throughout the day for anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes to gather data on what we were observing and comparing that to
And is it sort of what you're observing in terms of tier 1 and all the other tiers, or like what other guiding principles? Because there's so much going on in a classroom. I guess I'm curious what.
So we'll be anchoring it in the tasks that students are engaged in, because we're talking about rigorous differentiated tasks. And so the rubric would be focused specifically on the tasks. Is the task standards aligned? Is it rigorous? What like DOK level, for instance, does it represent?
A DOK, just
Depths of knowledge. And then, so like, what is it? Is it standards aligned? And then like are students engaged in it? Like those would be the types of questions that we would have in our head as we walk in.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody who's involved in this, especially working over the summer. Really appreciate it, and it's like all of the outreach that was done and thought that was put into this. I really appreciate kind of the part of the CIWP that I really appreciate is that naming the problem and then like starting there to find a solution. And I was wondering, kind of one of the most kind of shocking statistics or numbers that we've seen presented to us is the opportunity gap, in the school between our Black students and our Asian and white students. And I know we were all here a couple of months ago and we talked about the state of the school, and we could see the last 3 years, our Latinx students closing that gap between our Latinx and our white and Asian students, and the Black students not staying the same. So I'm wondering kind of where that problem is being named in the CIWP and what we're doing to address it.
Yeah, so in the previous CIWP, it was a little bit more explicit because that CIWP was developed pre-pandemic when we were using map data where we had multiple years of data points that we could compare to. And that data like explicitly showed that. Post-pandemic, with this particular CIWP, what we're seeing is our tier 1 is not strong. It was a lot stronger pre-pandemic. And so priority 1 is really focused on the tier 1 for all students, because we're not going to be able to close that gap if our tier 1 is not a strong enough one. Tier 2 is where we see it, but we've specifically named English language learners in that, because that's where we've seen a lot of our English language learners receiving an intervention, making progress, and then backtracking. And so we've named it there, but then we've also named it in our data cycles and making sure that we're looking at student performance data, that we're looking at disaggregated by race, gender, IEP. So it's not that it's not part of it, it is. It's just not explicitly as like a star data point that we're measuring. It's in the practice goals that we're engaged in.
Okay.
I just wanted to also just, I noticed the same thing that Nicole named, and I think it should really be more present and noticeable in the CIWP. And I should have prefaced all of my questions with the same gratitude for the committee, for all of you who, working on this over the summer. And I know the administrators work over the summer, with their other part of their jobs. And the parents, it's a lot of time and energy that you spent, and it's evident in what we're looking at. But I just, I think the opportunity gap, AKA the achievement gap, is such a pressing problem in our country. It lives here at Peirce, and knowing that data for Black students has, not really gotten better. It seems a natural place to focus within the curriculum instruction priority. The other thing I just wanted to lift up from the teacher feedback, I thought this was, to me, the most resonant comment about priority area 1. And it said, some students have other things going on that are preventing them from being able to be present. And those needs need to be addressed as well. We have to address those needs before we can expect them to perform at grade level. Students also need to make a connection to someone. And I know that that's what the student voice priority area is about, but that comment resonated. So I wanted to just name that.
Well, wanted to add to, one concern I had kind of looking at the goals over 3 years that aren't disaggregated by race is that it seems to me that we could hit those goals as our school, we see like is on track to get whiter and whiter by still not improving the numbers for our Black students. So I'm concerned about approving a structure that allows for that allows for us to uplift our one group of students and not another.
I agree with that.
We can take that feedback back to the Sierra team when we meet in October and, sort of like share that with the team. We're not going to be able to make those revisions today, but I think that what I'm hearing is that there's a desire for folks to get the team to revisit that.
Yes.
And that included Latinos as well, not just Black.
No, they've vastly improved.
So, yeah, the concern that I had is about our Black students, because you see the numbers for our Latinx students improving over the last 3 years, but not our Black students.
No, the reason I'm saying is because we're looking at it not just this year, but 3 years in a row. And now we notice that we're getting more students there. It speaks not just English, but Spanish as well. So that would be on the long run, 4 years.
English language learners are specifically named as a metric that we're measuring.
Was there discussion in this section too about like culturally relevant curriculum in addition to the rigorous?
Yeah, that was actually named in the reflection on foundations.
Okay.
And so what we had acknowledged is that the school had done a lot of work with the last cycle to revise and revamp, rewrite our curriculum. And in the Cultivate survey data, affirming identities was the highest graded component by students. And so it's not a significant area of focus in this CIWP. However, it doesn't mean that it's not continuing to happen. Like, just like our work with restorative practices is not heavily identified here, nor is the behavioral health team. There's a lot of things that have been historical priorities that are not lost in the school. It's just that when it came time to identify what are the 3 things that we have not really focused on in a while that really we think can give us a heavier lift, these were the 3 that we came up with. But like a lot of that other work still will happen. It's just not specifically named. Like, we couldn't just name everything because then it becomes unfocused.
Yeah.
But like I was meeting with a team today and they said that they really need to rethink when they did the initial review, they had like not realized, because at that time, they didn't have as many students that needed the book translated into Spanish. And now they do, and they're realizing that the book that they had focused on is not even available in Spanish, and so they're having to shift curriculum again. And so those things are very much aware and being thought about, even though it's not named here.
I have something that isn't priority one necessarily, but so when goals are being projected, are they, I guess, I don't know how the TIWB process began. Are you guys reviewing here, like our projections were X and then we met or didn't meet those? So is that helping inform that, like, for example, I think this one, it increased 6% every year. Another one was like 15% every year. How is there history that's being referenced in determining that increase or decrease?
So we have to acknowledge that the data points that we're using are still very new. And so this will be the first year where kindergarten through 8th grade students are all taking STAR. In years past, it was, and it's only been for 2 years, 3rd through 8th grade. So now we have K-8 for that. Cultivate last year was the first year that was brand new. So we've established goals semi-arbitrarily, but with some thinking, like generally they say to look at it from like a 10% per year increase. But knowing that different metrics may yield different outcomes, like depending on the type of work that's being done. And so this is where when the CIWP committee meets, they may need to make revisions to what some of these goals are and what some of the action steps are.
So like those 3-year projections, we don't necessarily even have we aren't comparing apples to apples with previous ones.
We're comparing baseline data as of end of the year, school year 24, school year 23. We're using end of the year, last year's data to create the 3-year.
But some of that data is new because like when my son was little, it was NWEA math instead of STAR 360. And that change was just made, what did you say? 2 years?
2 years.
And those aren't apples to apples tests. So that's just one example.
And the measures that were used prior are probably not related to the ones that are there. I think what you're asking is if we had a particular goal that's not necessarily STAR or NWA related, and we saw what kind of increase we got from the expected to the actual, can we use that as a baseline to project the increase from the baseline based on STAR this time? For this thing, so are we expecting the same progression? I don't know if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, well, and especially on a couple of them, it's like,
Double.
Within 3 years, it's like we're jumping up a lot every year, and I don't know if that's realistic. But those can be modified. Okay, so this is always a working document through all of the meetings.
For the whole 3 years.
For the whole 3 years.
We wanna jump to public participation?
And I think we want to do it priority 2 and 3.
How much time did we allocate? Because my concern is that like we spent a lot of time on priority 1.
Yeah.
Well, we said 30 minutes, but I think we
Presentation.
It's been 15 minutes since the discussion started. I didn't time the presentation.
Can I, just a question, I think it was in priority 3, if we can jump ahead. I don't know, do we want to stay organized? I'm just looking to see if.
Can we establish a time limit
Yeah.
for each section, just because my fear is that the other parts of the agenda are also very long. This is an important piece, but we haven't gotten to public participation yet.
My suggestion is another 15 minutes for discussion, because we had 30-minute presentation, 30-minute discussion,
That sounds good to me.
another 15 minutes. All right, I'll put the timer.
I just have one question about priority 2. I don't know if others do. Go ahead.
Who is the MTSS? is that,
So it's more
or
like
the,
what
te-
is?
the
Okay.
team, it says an MTSS team will be formed. That's gonna be teachers?
So our PSS team, the mobility system supports is led by our interventionists. So we have 2 interventionists, Jenny and Tiffany, who are on the team originally. Also on the team is myself. We have Anastasia, our case manager, Anita, our case manager. And we have Josh, who when he's from here, he's on the team as well. And those are the specific individuals that are on the academic side of our MTSS.
Going along with that question, I wanted just a little bit of clarification, and I might not be, I didn't capture this verbatim, but there was reference to like in the bigger goal here. Oh, wait a minute. I think it was on one of the first slides, actually. Well, there was reference to creating a system of support. Is that the same as professional development, or what does that mean?
So the system of support, I think what you're referring to is like for the students.
For the
specifically,
teachers,
For the teachers.
yeah.
So part of that, of what we're doing is we have a system called branching minds. So branching minds is something that's used district wide for students, for us to look at student data, put in interventions, put in goals, put in progress monitoring. It's all housed in this one system that can be tracked year after year, and if a child were to move to another school, that information is still there. So the system of support really is specifically around providing teachers with development around creating those intervention groups, creating goals, in providing interventions to students to support their progress towards meeting those specific interventions that are all there.
Okay. I'm trying to understand how that's gonna, like, how are you envisioning that to happen? Is that like, I'm just making this up, but is it one-on-one between an administrator and a teacher? Is it on staff development days, all of the above?
So we talked about that at some point, and what I heard most of the time is that some of the teachers had some experience with that type of work, and they would be able to coach or guide others who are now part of this process through these goals and how to actually achieve them. Because a lot of times it's just goals are thrown at them with very little, guidance or material. And the idea is that the folks that have been through it are going to be a reference, right? And it's going to be formal in the way that this is set up, but also informal in, hey, I'm having this issue, what's there, or what can you help me with, or how can you help me address this issue? So I heard a lot of effort towards collaboration between the teachers and because again, there are different levels of involvement and experience with these types of issues, or all the alphabets soup around MTSS and DOK, and I heard a lot of that during those meetings. So that's my understanding.
Great, thank you.
For priority 3, so I don't know if, I noticed that in the implementation for priority 1 and 2, there were 3 or 4 implementation points. And for the partnership and engagement, we really only have 2. And so to me,
Which one are you looking at?
uh, no,
Is it these?
these 2, yeah,
There's three.
So yes, it's right.
okay. Right, yes, okay, sorry, there's 3. At least in the one that I was looking at online, like it even had implementation 4 and then it was blank. And I think the other ones had 4. So in my mind, I see an opportunity to have some kind of implementation, something concrete in decreasing the referrals, or some sort of performance goal. Because at this point, all that I really see in there is saying, we're gonna have a student voice committee. We're gonna continue focus groups. And those are really the only actionable things that I can see that would help decrease referrals.
So it was in two places. One was in priority two, practice goal, this third one. Teacher team will review student behavior data on a quarterly basis, disaggregated by IEP grades, gender and EL. So it's here. What is that? What does that do? Like what?
It raises awareness so that teams can see, like, these are the students that are constantly being referred. How many of them are coming from your classroom?
Okay,
And if you have none, like, how many are coming from a Peirce classroom? Like, where might we need to support people? Or like problem solving and thinking about like, what's at the root of this?
yeah.
So it's an awareness and then like, how do we continue to create awareness and call this to attention?
Okay, because what I wanted to add to what Keith said is I don't feel like there's been a root cause analysis or a theory of action attached to the outcome related to the disproportionate discipline. And that feels like I don't know, I'm not good with metaphors, but it just kind of feels like a fish out of water, I guess. Like what work has been done and can it be placed in here to show the root cause analysis, and then what,
So
like, how is that outcome gonna happen?
So one of the things to also acknowledge, the reason that this didn't become a priority as a standalone priority is because nowhere in the district's reflections on foundations, nowhere in like the language that we were looking at was decrease referrals of students of color. They looked at like decreasing suspensions, decreasing 4-6 student code of conduct violations, but nothing led to like get specific of an issue to develop a theory of action. Like it was nowhere. And that's sort of what led to it not becoming like this entire priority. And so this is where like that guidance just does not exist from the district right now.
The other thing that we talked about, specifically as it relates to priority number 2, under those practice goals, and when we talked to Shelton and the folks that are involved in I never pronounce it properly. No. Restorative. That word is gonna kill me. But anyway, that guy. So one of the things that was brought up is that, and again, it's not spelled out here, but the outreach to the students themselves that are going through those referrals and having one-on-one conversations with them to start understanding, like, from your perspective as a student, what do you think is happening? Why are you, or what do you think, quote unquote, you get referred or you get into trouble? What are the kind of, is there something that we need to do better? Or what do we need to be aware of? Is there something that we can do to help support you? And so that's what, so as part of the, what they have in the toolbox, they're gonna reach out to those students to get, because the idea here is it's the inclusion, and it's more making sure that, okay, you're going through that discipline quite a bit. What can we do? Can we just kind of separate the discipline aspect of it and kind of look at you as a human being, just like has been done on the restorative justice path? But let's go deeper. What's happening? What can we do to support you? That's number one. Number two, one thing that was brought up is, as part of this feedback, once you turn that over to the teachers, the fear or the art is, we want the teachers to be aware of what some actions may engender or may have as a consequence. And the kid might be saying, I'm going to do it anyway because my teacher is not receptive to differences or the way I am as a kid. But we want the teachers to be aware of that, because we don't want them to then start either under-reporting or over-reporting, because we want them to continue doing what they think is right, in the realm of the classroom, but take into consideration the fact that this kid or these kids are being treated, based on the data, a little bit different than the rest of the school. And so how do we work together to make sure that the teachers know we're monitoring it or we're reviewing this data? We want to be able to understand what this data is, but please continue doing your work, because your work is important in terms of the curriculum, in terms of making sure that we make this school what it can be and that things are taught properly, but also in terms of understanding the students themselves and giving them that space. And that's the reason why we're putting together a student voice, right? It's not just to benefit the students that I've spoken before and that are these outspoken, is to make sure that we try to lift everyone as part of this. So I think I understand what's being said about specifically spelling out some of these steps or calling out these discrepancies. My understanding is, part of this whole effort is to have the framework that would just then lift everyone. I think there was a concern that might be a lofty goal, because then you would sort of lose, or some people are still going to get left out. And that was I want to be emphatic on that, about the fact that everyone in the committee throughout all those conversations stayed focused on that piece, even though it's just, we want to make sure that these things don't happen as frequently. And if they do, we are laser focused on them. So perhaps it's a rewriting effort or whatever we want to call it, but I want to emphasize the fact that all the stuff that has been acquired as a result of the past few years of the CIWP are going to be built on. They're not going to get left, they're not going to drop.
I'll just say,
14.
yeah, I agree. There seems to be kind of a gap or like a stretch between like reporting this data, which we've been doing regularly already, and that leading to some sort of improved outcome or a different outcome. It seems like we've been reporting it and the outcome is the same. And student voice being the answer to the discipline data problem isn't really, I guess, making sense to me.
Understanding the connection that students are having.
Yeah.
What is their experience in going through the discipline and the whole process?
I guess I'm concerned about like students needing to provide the solution to this for us.
Understanding their experience.
Okay.
So that we can share that back with teachers, because right now, like the student's perspective is completely missing.
Okay.
Like they're looking at data in isolation without knowing what the experience of the student has been.
I would like to see a focus on both. I think it's important to give voice to the students if they want to give voice in that way. But I also think it's important to, we talked when I was part of the Next Steps Anti-Racism cohort, and we picked the disproportionate discipline as the problem that we wanted to focus on. And we met with Principal Amy and Mr. Jackson multiple times, and there was a lot of focus on teacher capacity. I know when I was a very new teacher, I screwed it up big time when it came to my Black students in particular. And I didn't know what else to do other than the way I was reacting. And so I want to see in here something to address teacher capacity as well as student experience, their lived experience with discipline.
If I can ask a question on the slide where it was, it showed the disciplinary data and then the percentages year after the next 3 years with that, and then the IEPs. Yeah. So I know you were saying the students of color, we're getting 48% in order to like match the percentage of students. Is that kind of the goal that you were mentioning? Because right now, so then with the IEPs, you have 44%. And we have roughly like a third of our students with an IEP or 504.
No, not, this isn't five or four, this is strictly.
Just IEP. Oh, okay. So this 14% reflect the,
It's still, I think we're like 12%.
oh, okay. Thank you.
Can I just take one more minute? I'm sorry, I know the timer went off, but because Rocky's not here, she and I co-wrote a statement. It's brief. It'll take me a minute to read it.
Sure,
Okay.
any objection?
And it will capture some of the questions and comments I made. So again, we are grateful to the CIWP committee for the energy and time and expertise that you all put into creating one draft and then another draft based on feedback. We also want to state that we believe each of these three priority areas is anchored or on the road toward being anchored in equity. And for example, priority area 1, the differentiated and standards aligned rigorous tier 1 instruction. If that kind of instruction is done intentionally and thoughtfully, as we meaning I'm including myself as an educator in this, then dual language students and diverse learners receive that instruction they need to access learning at an entry level, and then all students benefit because the instruction is rigorous and differentiated. So in Principals, Amy, in your opening of the school year newsletter, you wrote, "At our school, we take great pride in the work we do to build a culture of equity that centers belonging, inclusion, and anti-racist practice." And we wonder where the anti-racist practice is in the CIWP. Specifically, if Peirce is to be truly anti-racist, 2 pressing continuing problems at Peirce must be addressed: the problem of Black student achievement lagging, and the problem of disproportionate discipline and it's Black and Latinx students, because some students of color are not disproportionately disciplined, for example, AAPI students. You don't have to start from scratch. Root cause analyses were discussed in the collaboration that we had as our next steps cohort. We also, as a cohort, created a strategy with action steps for addressing this problem. We would love to get more into that with you. I don't think we ever had time to do that. And then, I think Nicole brought up regarding the Black student achievement problem, shifting from rigorous instruction to culturally responsive instruction would address that problem while helping to build that rigorous instruction that priority 1 calls for. And culturally responsive teaching is rigorous teaching, as its founder, Gloria Ladson-Billings, has demonstrated. And we just wanted to wrap up by saying the CIWP is probably our most important work as a council, because it represents this overarching strategy for teaching and learning at Peirce. It's also connected with the school's budget, and we want to be able to appropriate money directly to these problems, and without seeing them explicitly stated, we're not clear how to do that. And that's it from Rocky Dodia, parent representative and LSC secretary, and me, Kathleen Hayes. Thank you for that extra time.
Very good. Thank you for setting up for a long time. All right. Thank you again for everyone for participating. The next item on the agenda is public participation. So we have a sign-up sheet here. Folks can come in and sign up. We're gonna have 2 of these, right? This is the first one. And let me start. So Gina?
Everybody. I just have a couple of things. I know prior, another LSC meeting, there was like a safety committee, and I know that was for them. How that plays, but one thing that I've noticed being in the community, and I come down here every day, I was dropping my son off at even. And the number of parents that I see that are doing U-turn while the horse is still up. They will drop out their kid in front, and then they will make a U-turn. So as people are coming west to go to east, okay, instead of allowing parents to be able to pull in, pull out, let their kid out, the parents are now stuck there because the cars coming west would normally go around them because the street is blocked here at Glenwood. So that would give them a way to be able to go around and then meet up at the stop sign to then go whichever direction that they're gonna go. Also, that concerns me because when people are either U-turning or they're already parked here on the street and are going west. It creates a bottleneck. It's also unsafe because you have kids who are getting out of their parents' cars and crossing over to come to the front door. Usually the time that I come in is varied. I've seen so much of it. Usually I'm here between 7:45 and 8:15, so it's not just, I can say, oh, it's right before school, or it's like right after 8 o'clock. But I know that the course is moved, then there's really nothing we can do, but you still have the line in front of the school coming from west to east. And these parents are still letting their kids out on the opposite side, going from east to west, and they're running across. That is very dangerous.
It happens on Gregory too. The very same thing. I drop off on Gregory and I've witnessed people running across, and it just feels very unsafe out there.
Even though it's a one-way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good out there.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And the other thing that I wanted to say is number 8 on whole business. I look forward to an update on teacher, community rep, and student rep. How do we re-engage? What action are we putting out there as a school community and in the community as a whole, to be able to bring everybody back together, because the school needs each and every one of the categories to be able to be successful. To have goals and what is supposed to support this school for long term. It's a shame, you know, and we should, as adults and as parents and as staff and community members, should be able to get it together enough to be able to re-engage, come up with action points and be able to move forward. Because the way that this is going to happen is it's going to be winter break before you get any of these positions filled, if you do. So I just encourage everybody as the Peirce community, the Peirce family, do what you can to try to re-engage everybody to be able to support the students and the staff of Peirce. Thank you.
Thank you. Avi?
First of all, I want to thank the CAW committee and our leadership team for working so hard on this. I know, especially without a PPLC and having to do all the work over the summer, it was compounded. And I think that having to come up with a CAWP under normal circumstances would have been hard. But coming out of the pandemic and over the summer and without fully staffed, all this support. So I appreciate all the work that you've done. Second, I want to endorse what some of the parent reps have been saying, and let you all know that I share those concerns. I understand the need to focus on the level 1, but I feel like the problem with that is that we already, you know, when you're trying to help across the board, you're explicitly trying to help across the board, and you lift everybody, those people who are already falling through are just going to continue falling through, and I think we need more targeted ways of thinking. I appreciate that there is a CAWP committee that's going to be moving throughout the 3 years to work on that. There was a question asked about professional development. One of the things that happened while I was on the LSC is so that stuff isn't always in the CAWP, but Dr. Fisher was someone who was selected to do professional development, and that was well into the school years of the CAWP. So I think that there is a chance for just because it's not there doesn't mean that it won't be high quality training. It would be great if there was a PPLC that comment help with that though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I missed. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the buzzer. So. No, I really appreciate how seriously the LSC is taking this discussion. And as someone who was served on the LSC and looking at the parent reps, as a parent, and proud of the level of discussion that you all are bringing to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yes, I wanted to let the LSC know that my daughter Tilly is interested in filling the vacant spot for
Please to
the,
submit that application tomorrow.
for the student.
Get that in
So I
tomorrow,
didn't know what
tell
happens or
her.
how that would proceed, but she really would like to do it, so.
Applications were passed out. Lynn had made sure that announcements were made to 7th and 8th graders. Applications were put out. Students were told that the deadline was tomorrow, so.
Oh, okay, so she needs to turn it in tomorrow.
Mhm.
Perfect, okay, I didn't know that, she didn't tell me that. Okay, great, and then the second thing, if you're interested in having crossing guard for Act Gregory by Jewel, I think there's a need for one, I think you have to put in a request.
We have,
Oh, you have, okay, perfect. The third thing is I have to leave, so I was wondering if it would be okay if I gave a repeat, so update, if I skipped up and then this is Mitch.
Well, you're next, so.
Is it okay, Chad?
Oh,
if I go?
right, that's
Oh, yeah, that's.
Chad.
Okay, thank you so much. So we had our PSO meeting
So,
last Thursday.
so just
Sorry.
1 second. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're good in terms of public participation.
Did we get a report?
Like my
from
German teacher would say, moment.
PSC?
No, I didn't. I vote, but
We just, in terms of trying to keep meetings, to a minimum, it would be more efficient if we could get those reports and then use this time to discuss.
I totally forgot to do that. Yeah, I was so busy with the CIWP stuff that I literally, as soon as you said that. Totally forgot.
I don't think we got any-
I didn't remind
anybody-
you, so I'm glad we,
it's
yes,
on my mind, but I forgot when I didn't see the email, but it was on my mind to do it. But
Yeah,
it's okay.
yes.
We want to hear from you. We just are trying to.
Well,
Make
and
our
to try
time
and help Michelle's daughter too, if your daughter can't find that, is there a way that she can find the sign up somewhere else?
it probably is on the district website, like the LSC website. I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure.
Okay.
Because we do want a student rep for sure.
And I wanted to make sure and check the inbox to see if there are any comments or. And I think we're good there.
Just regardless to the safety of U-turns they're doing, and I'm not saying why, but the problem is the next tree is being under construction. And that's the only one going back west, unless they got to go all the way to, I believe there's Reach or the next one. So I'm not saying that that's why they're doing it, but a lot of them, they try to get as soon as possible away from the area, so I would say we just be cautious, but be careful, we have a lot of construction going on in the neighborhood. And unfortunately, that creates a lot of parents trying to get to work or wherever the destinations are, so right now. But I have seen the situation as well, but again, it's very hard to go turn around. Many of even myself, I get here for 45 minutes earlier, and I still have sometimes hard time to get around here. So. Just answering you, but hey, it is good.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Mhm.
I'm gonna do 5 minutes for.
Go ahead.
All right, perfect. We had our first PSO meeting last Thursday. We had a really nice turnout, and we have all our events calendar already planned for the year, and it was handed out at the open house last night. And I just wanted to say that I thought the open house was really great and really well attended. I don't know if you noticed the thing, but it seemed like there was a ton of people this year. And speaking for the 7th grade presentation, I thought it was amazing. So at the open house, I normally don't print out a ton of flyers, and I think I had 100, and they're all up. So I feel like there is people that are engaged this year more than ever, and that's a really great sign for all the events that we have planned and all the volunteers. It's volunteerism that we need. Next week, I'll put that calendar in the backpack mail. And also I talked to Miss Amy about putting up a banner. PTA bag of all the events, so it'll be outside for parents to see all year long, so they can be updated and know what's going on in an easy way. Our first event that we're having for the PSO is our fall parent mixer. And this has been, I don't think we say this can go home and backpack enough, Brent. Yeah, so it's being advertised through S'more and on our social sites. And it's at Whiskey Girl Tavern on Thursday, September 21st from 7 to 10. We won't have babysitting with the FOP, but for our next one we will. Friday, there's no school, so it's a Thursday night and it's gonna be a fun one. And I'm hoping that all the parent group heads are there to speak to the folks. Give a little speech about the groups that you guys run and how it works. That's historically what we've done, so, and then we are also reinstituting the junior PSO for grades 4 through 8. And that's gonna be, they're gonna help the PSO with volunteering, and it's gonna get kids involved in the school, and I think it's gonna be great, so I think that's pretty much it. That's all I want to report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. FOP.
Hey, good early afternoon. I appreciate the earlier time. So thank you for that. My name is Chad Curry, president of Friends of Peirce. We're the fundraising group for the school, the parent fundraising group. We have a new executive committee. I'm actually still the president. Steve Larosier is our vice president. April's continuing as our treasurer, and Kevin has moved to secretary. We've also built in a committee structure now too, to help us operate more effectively and have a sustainable organization that can grow as the school grows. So we have a communications committee, a development committee, communication focused on getting the word out there about us and what we do. Development's focused on helping us raise funds. Events are on events like Move-a-thon, our what we're calling Kids Night Out as well. Or excuse me, Parents Night Out, and our community event we're gonna have at the end of the year. Oh, that's actually mine. I'm sorry. You were trying to be helpful. No, I totally was sitting next to her.
It's all good.
They were sitting next to her. I totally get it. Programming, that's our committee that's focused on working with other groups like PSO, BAC, and REP. One of the things we're being very intentional about is making sure that we're attached to each parents led group. And I'll talk more about that in a second. Then we have our operations and finance committee that's helping us think about how we're building in our operations. Finally, I want to focus on another group we're calling the IDEA Committee, which is the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity for Action Committee, helping us be more intentionally inclusive in what we do and thinking about how we operate with respect to how we support impacted communities. We have 2 co-chairs, myself and Hina Mahmood, and 2 advisors, Javier Seawright and Trina Mabry are advisors on that. And we're looking to actually bring in some more community members. And all of these groups, we are looking to have assistance there. We've identified our events this year. Our first event was the Hop Leaf Cakes for Kids. We raised $750. We're working with Michael Roper to think about how other schools can participate in Cakes for Kids. We have a parent that's offered to provide money for a keg that would raise funds for another school. So we're talking to Gaudi about potentially how we can assist with that. From the 17th to the 21st, Pizzeria Roma is having Peirce Week. So if you tell them you're with Peirce or put in the online order that you're doing, you're ordering for Peirce, 20% of funds will come back to us for that week. And then our move-a-thon goal is $30,000. That's half of what it was last year. The reason being that we moved it to the fall, so there hasn't been a lot of time. We don't want to come back to the community as and ask for the same amount because of that. We've received budget requests from the school as well as PSO, BAC, and REP. PSO is asking for $9,800. BAC is asking for $4,000, and REP is asking for $5,000. This is the first time we've actually received budget requests from BAC and REP. We've done one-off funding in the past with pinatas, but also the DILA event last year. But we asked that they provide requests as well if they have them. And we've also sent memorandums of understanding to each group And this really is to help FOP in the future. We want to make sure that there's historical records, so new board members can come on and have access to that to understand what was agreed to, but also clearly lines out what's provided from us as well as what we're expecting what we're needing from them. We'll have a vote on those as well as the school budget in October. And we're also hosting community and coffee events every month now. I'm actually going to do them bi-weekly, but because the 22nd we're canceling that one. But the intent being that we want people to informally come to us and understand what it is we do, but also if they have questions, they can ask those and we can discuss topics like whatever anybody wants to discuss. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jen.
All right, next on the agenda, REP, Racial Equity Parents Group. I don't think we got anything from them. Okay. Move on to committee reports. Back. I think they did have, so we,
Kristen's here.
Yeah.
Can you-
yeah,
But so we had our organizational meeting. on
That's right.
Thursday.
Right.
We have our committee members or our officers for that. The one thing that we did not have to do during our organizational meeting was go on, have a discussion around our funding, so that's gonna happen.
thank you.
Was there election of?
Yeah, the election of the office.
And that happened already?
Yeah, there.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
can you tell us
included
who
the-
they were?
I
Who they
included the names in my principal report.
Oh,
Yeah,
did?
it's
Okay.
here.
Okay, sorry.
There's a lot of them. I didn't realize there were so many positions. Thank you. Equity Committee.
Yeah, we had our first meeting on September 6th. And, hold on, I just misplaced my notes. The first thing I wanted to let the LSC know is that, 2 members from school year 22 to 23 had to step off the committee, Claret Campos and Cecilia Bocanegra. And I just want to thank them for their time and energy and, you know, all the time they put in and the ideas they shared last year. And we elected me as committee chair, and we not elected, but you know, appointed, I guess is the better word. And we appointed Miranda Blunt, committee secretary. So right now it's me and Rocky and Miranda Blunt who make up that committee. We also have our schedule. Thank you, Principals Amy and Lynn Caro for getting our schedule, our meeting schedule posted on the school calendar. I do want to ask you, Principals Amy, if we might have room 120 instead of the field house. But you don't have to answer that question. I can have that conversation with you later. And then I also presented that proposed operational framework that I had presented to the council at our organizational meeting. And we also had public participants there who, along with committee members, said that they appreciated the framework. They felt like it gave us more of a structure on what our roles are and can be. And we also, just one more thing, talked about ways to collaborate. For example, there's a new informal LGBTQ parent group. So we talked about collaborating with that group, collaborating with the Bilingual Advisory Council. And one other important thing, we just talked a little bit about adding the asylum seeker families and students just to our purview in general, in collaboration with the school, because we know in Chicago that there are just so many families here. And then I think that's about it.
Thank you. Next, principal evaluation. There are no updates.
Other than
Other than
just the new evaluation template. They've changed it from last year, and the Office of LSC Communications has been sharing that out. I also linked it in my principal's report.
do you all get that?
I feel like I saw it.
Where it's
And that must be how.
Through
through you.
Office of Local School Council.
Yeah.
They've been advertising because they were like
Sending out
seeking
emails.
input into it.
Yeah,
So I've realigned my principal's reports to the new competencies.
Okay. Thank you. Bylaws?
We just approved
Yeah,
the
we-
bylaw updates, yay.
And to Lori's point, we probably want to put so as a standing agenda item, a vote to allow members of the LSC to join remotely if necessary. I'm gonna make a note of that. I made a note of that so we can do it. All right. Next item, update on teachers, community representative, and student representative vacancies. I think
Can I start with the teacher and the student?
you can start with the student. That one's gonna be quick.
Yeah, so student,
Should I do 5 minutes for this section?
Yeah, that should be fine.
student was advertised, Lynn had advertised the LSC vacancy for a student. I think 7 students took an application. She had told me there were no 8th graders, all of them were 7th graders. And they were told that they have until tomorrow to return them. From the teacher end, I have 1 teacher, so I'd re-advertise the teacher vacancy. I have 1 teacher who submitted an application. And the deadline for that was this past Monday. I received from Luis Garcia the process for holding the non-binding vote, so the LSC doesn't vote the person in. But I need to share with the staff that 1 person did express interest, and then they would then be appointed by the board. So as long as I can have that done before whenever the agenda item needs for the board, the next board meeting, then that teacher would be able to join the LSC at that point, once the board has approved that. I will continue to re-advertise the teacher vacancy, hoping that we can get a second teacher, and I'll share the name of the person once we've finished the non-binding vote.
or do you have a time frame in mind for how long you're gonna extend? I mean, we definitely would like to get 2 more, 2 total, but is there, I'm just thinking of the process with the board, they only meet once a month.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna continue to advertise it and then set a deadline and then re-advertise and set a deadline.
Okay, I think I misunderstood. The 1 person you're gonna forward to,
Yeah, I have to do a non-binding vote just for technicalities.
okay,
They just need 1
Got
vote
it.
to be elected, but it needs to be, the teachers need to know that there's a vote. I don't know if anyone will vote, but we need at least 1 vote for there to be an election, and then it's not a competitive election right now.
okay,
So that one is done, but now I will re-advertise to fill the second one.
thank you.
Is the PPLC able to begin with only 1 teacher?
Mhm.
Oh, cool, great. That's,
And that teacher reach out to other teachers too? And we can help.
They can.
well, once they join the meeting, then we can pass through there.
Yeah. Okay. Community rep. So I think Lindsay, you had a question about what kind of next steps.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
haven't seen it posted anywhere on our website. I haven't seen it in any Alderman newsletters.
We said we had to talk about it here to
Yeah.
agree on
Yeah.
a time frame and someone. to
Yeah,
read the
so if we can
statement.
maybe get a structure in place for people that want to apply, just to make it.
Council
clear
needs to
community
decide on
members.
that today.
Yeah,
Okay,
What our
so we're
timeline
just
is.
gonna put it out there that we have a vacancy. I mean, how quickly can that go? I mean, what kind of formal
We just
notification?
need someone to write the announcement. We need to establish a deadline for when
People can
applications
apply?
need to be submitted.
Do we feel like it makes sense to try and have a vote next meeting?
Mhm.
Is that enough time?
I think, yeah, if we can get communications out,
Mhm.
by beginning of next week,
Mhm.
I think by next month, I think it'd be great. if we
Who
could-
can draft the communications?
Lindsay and I are.
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
or me.
So the first step is to put out that communication. Who are they going to reach out to to express interest and be considered?
They would send it to Lynn.
Got it. Okay, and then
Yeah,
so
is there a
what's the,
document they have to
Yeah,
come,
the
okay,
LSC application.
Okay,
I think,
Okay.
is that available
It's public,
always?
yeah,
on
it's
the-
always
On the
available.
OSCR website?
And so what's the timeline? So between now and the next meeting, is there do we want to give people
We probably want it
until-
at least a week before the next meeting, just so that we can advertise that these are the people and we should let them know that they should be prepared to speak. at the
Okay,
next
so
meeting.
folks come and express interest. Then we let the community know. And then, so what's the time?
It can
Yeah,
just be as an agenda, like these are.
an agenda item, okay.
Our next meeting is October 13th. Is that right?
Is it?
Yeah, I have it on my
Is that-
calendar.
that's
October 19th.
19th? Oh,
13th is a Friday.
sorry, that's my multifocal contacts failing me.
Here,
Seriously, I need readers in addition to these. I'm sorry, yes, the 19th.
okay.
So we would want their candidate
So,
forums. by the
so we want to say, so the deadline to express interest. And is it a hard deadline? Is it a soft deadline? Like what if somebody
We need
comes
to
in?
come up with a hard deadline.
Okay,
I mean, their names don't have to be published because the community is not voting, the LSC is.
right,
So you could even say up until like 8 AM on the day of the 12th, for instance, just so that we can make sure that, but the council may want time. So if there's more than one person that submits an application, you all might want time to review.
Yeah, I think a
Consider
week's
that.
time would be good.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
if we had them attend the meeting,
so can we say 5 PM or 3 PM, October 12th will be a
I'd say
deadline?
3 PM, October 12th.
3 PM, October 12th. Okay. And then, so when that's wrapped up, or when that deadline comes, then Lynn or you will inform us of the different candidates, and then whatever material they put out there, is it available to us only or to everyone?
I think it becomes public, like we can upload it into the LSC folder, like if they create a statement, if they don't create a statement, then we have nothing
Right.
to put up.
it.
But I would say in whatever communication you're doing to put that we encourage candidates interested to attend the LSC meeting on October 19th so that they can introduce themselves to the council.
Right, so I'm getting to that now, so that will be an agenda item to give them a forum to introduce themselves to the community via, by way of the LSC meeting.
Yes.
And we go into closed session to discuss and then come back.
So how's that gonna work now that we're back in person, the closed session?
We just go.
I
into
think we go
another
to a
room.
room. Closed
Okay.
room.
Sure. For the students will be introduced, whoever won on the next agenda, next meeting.
Right, how does that work?
So if more than one student submit an application, there will be a school-wide vote. Either way, there has to be a school-wide vote because we need at least one vote, but we will have to hold a student forum like we did the last time. And that time we had done it virtually where all classrooms joined a Google Meet link. And the candidates gave their speeches, classrooms had an opportunity to ask questions, and then we had a Google form for the students to vote.
Got it.
So we'll do that same thing, regardless how many candidates we have from the students.
Okay, and that needs to happen, is there a deadline for
We'll
that?
do that before the October meeting.
and just for the community representative spot, like the different outlets of communication, we're gonna do the website. Is that Mr. Lee? Does Mr. Lee put that on there? Okay. And then anything
Yeah.
else other than,
Can we do s'more?
yeah, it's more.
You can send that to myself and Kim.
Okay.
So in terms of criteria
Social media.
for community rep,
They just need to be
oh, never
within the
mind.
boundaries.
I answered my own question.
Students.
We want more time for this section, or we're over on this
I think-
one.
Maybe you just like one more minute. Okay, because I just want to make sure that we know. So we have website, we have this more, we have Lenny's email. That
You can-
goes with the
you can
newsletter.
request to put it in
Ask
there.
if we- okay. And then anywhere else that we want it?
And probably
Flyers.
just the Facebook groups
Facebook.
to have parents reach out to.
So any kind of social account.
Okay.
Social media account.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah, maybe like the, yeah, like the 48th Ward, Facebook group, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
The school socials, like the official.
Parents of Peirce and, oh, yeah.
Okay, so then the 12th, then we have a couple of days or a week to review. They come in, they give the statement, we'll go into closed session. We vote, and then we announce the new member, okay? All right. We're good? Mhm. Next, new business, vote on the CIWP. So again, so you spent a lot of time thanking folks, but we want to thank you as well for guiding through this. One of the things that I noticed is that we were thrown, a lot of things were thrown at us with, from, you call it the district, about what to consider and I mean, frankly, having not been through that before, I have to say that it's a little bit of, it's a lot to kind of consider in one place. So thank you for, walking us through that. And I think the fact that we kind of broke it down by committee, by priority and all of that, helped sort of keep the focus. And like, the same thing that happened during the interview process, kind of getting parents involved, I think was very helpful, specifically around the feedback, right? Whether it was teachers' feedback or community feedback, that was to us, or to me personally, that was very helpful. So with that, voting on the CIWP. So what are we voting on specifically? We're voting on approving the current draft of the CIWP, understanding that based on this conversation, there's some feedback that needs to go back to the different stakeholders and, for, possible review or rework and resubmission possibly. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to vote to approve the 3-year plan, the 3-year CIWP for Peirce.
Can I understand what happens if we don't?
I think
Any
the
discussion?
district- I think the district might choose to approve it or not.
So what do we,
Because the
is that
deadline is like Monday?
Tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow.
so it needs to be submitted. And then, so can you so my question is, and I'm trying to, so we can submit it and say, and say that it wasn't approved.
Yeah, I would have to let them know that it was not with this
Got it.
form.
Got it.
Mhm.
All right.
So you motion to approve
I,
the current.
so the motion is to vote to approve the CIWP for school years 24, 25, 26.
I'll second that.
Any discussion before we're going?
Sorry, we're going back.
Rocky will not be able to vote because we need an agenda item specifically voting to allow her to vote while being remote. So that was an oversight, and unfortunately she can't vote. All right. So now that there are fewer of us, I think we just need to kind of figure this out. So there are right. So there are 7 of us. So that means we do have quorums. We have sufficient presence to go through a vote. And in order for the CIWP to be approved, we need to have, as you said, 5 or more yeas. So with that in mind, all in favor? We have 5, okay.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I forgot.
So the next one is all, what's the word?
Opposed?
All opposed? We have two,
Respectfully.
that's fine. And so we have 5 and 2, and then, so we have two non-present members, so with that, the motion carries, so congratulations, everyone, and I want to make sure that, so this is a vote, right, but there's a lot that we need to discuss because everybody just want to give their feedback, so I'm glad that we voted to approve it, but also I'm glad that there's some continuous participation and that's why it's called continuous improvement, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just like to say I am approving it and respectfully to all the effort that already went into it. And as I'm learning about what the CIWP is for and how it's structured, I'm looking forward to the fact that it is a working document that some of the concerns brought up today can be continued to be addressed. And I guess that's it.
Can I say something? too?
Yes.
I just would ask that in October, when, this is discussed again, there's 3 things that really stood out to me that needed more attention on the CIWP. One is that definition of rigorous, that's up in the air, that's for that whole first section, and we need that definition in order to implement that plan. Naming the opportunity gap, that our Black students in particular face, I think needs to be added in there in October, and that the plan regarding the discipline data and hitting those ambitious goals to reduce the disparity with the discipline data needs to be closely looked at. Those are 3 things that I would ask that the committee take into consideration in October. And again, appreciate all of the work to get us to this point. Yes.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about was we're gonna have our own debrief, right? Or I would like us to have our own debrief. Being the first time that I got to participate, I mean, now it's sort of, now I know what to talk about, just like what Keith just articulated, right? And so I'm really curious to hear. I did get some of the feedback from some of the participants last time. So our last meeting, I asked, how does this compare to what was done last time?
When you said, I'm sorry, when you said participants, who are you referring to?
The members of the
members
committee, that's right. I heard 2 things. Number one was, this is, and those are the words, I'm not paraphrasing, this is the best, and this is from somebody that has done that before. This has been the best so far. I don't know.
Process or?
That's
plan?
right, throughout. There was, I want to say that the discussions were quite involved, right? Like, so whether it's, I mean, on any of these goals, and even, before the feedback, after the feedback, trying to make sure that we don't overlook stuff. So the second one was the fact that was what I just mentioned, the feedback, right? And being able to sort of like redirect and adapt and say like, well, maybe this is something that we wasn't particularly addressed, and we want to work towards that. So
Yeah, I mean, I had informal conversations with a couple of the parents, and I would say they said the same thing.
all right, next item, vote on the timeline for filling the community representative vacancy. So we've said October 12th, the deadline, 3 p.m. for submitting applications or interest. October 19th, for our next meeting, the vote will take place, or and then the forum will be in place first, and then the vote will take place. So I'd like to make a motion to approve October 12th as the deadline for application, and the vote to occur to select a community representative on our next meeting, October 19th.
Second.
We just put in the time of 3 p.m.
So So October 12th at 3 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Good, thank you. The next item that I put here had to do with just, so there was some correspondence between Lori and several parent group representatives about different events that will be upcoming. And I think besides the ones that we approved, there were some items that needed to be sort of ironed out before understanding like what, you know, for those proposed school events, what's necessary, what constitutes a you know, fundraising event, for example, what are the kinds of things that we need to consider while, you know, determine whether or not to approve these items. The first one that I put there is the homecoming dance, and the next one is babysitting nights, right? So help us understand like what's needed, what can we do, what are we limited in if that's a thing.
So homecoming dance, I said to the to PSO that I would like this to be something done in collaboration with the middle school teachers, Mr. Lee and Mr. Jackson. I do not want it to just be a parent-led event because we've seen, you know, just at some of our other dances that students, especially middle school students, don't always respond to parents. And given that this would be something that would attract more middle school students, I would really like to have more school support for it to happen.
Okay.
For babysitting nights, I had said that I wanted the committee to meet with Mr. Lee to iron out the details, because as soon as we're bringing students in to do the babysitting, it shifts. What was happening last year is parents were doing the babysitting. When you're involving students to do the babysitting, it shifts sort of what the protocols need to be in terms of volunteer clearance and how we're naming it and how we're advertising it. So if the school is actively supporting the recruitment of students to babysit for other families, then we need to make sure everybody that is there is level 1 approved, and we would need to really consider having school staff there as well. If it's something that people are just doing on their own and organizing without the school being involved in any of that, then that's different.
So you're saying the parents that are there need to be level 1, or are you saying that?
Level, if the PSO is asking the school to help communicate anything about this event to recruit students, then the school needs to have staff there. Yeah.
So as soon as the students are involved in that activity, that requires staff to be present.
Correct.
Is there a minimum number of staff that needs to be present?
I would say, I think at least 1.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about just dances in general and themes? And, you know, I gave feedback to PSO that I think homecoming is Eurocentric, and we really need to start looking at all the fabulous cultures we have in the school and celebrate those. And I know Mr. Lee had a some kind of committee group, heritage committee at some point. And I, you know, similarly, I think to Friends of Peirce's new idea committee, I would just hope that we could have more representation in who creates the themes for dances. We don't have to hash that out now, but I wanted to name that.
So the thing that's different from when we did babysitting in years past is that the parent that was organizing that did all the communication without the school being involved.
And the idea to involve the students is just to do that, right? Just kind of like help, so make it like a true community event and have
So
kids involved.
we are, I didn't mention this enough before. Can I do the big week update?
Great.
So with regard to the trip to one of the things we asked Mr. Lee to do was we were committing $15,000 as well as infrastructure to assist the parents in fundraising for the trip to New York, because there's a request for funds that's a substantial request beyond what we're looking to fundraise. So one of the things we wanted to do was have eighth graders involved in the babysitting as a way to honor that $15,000 that we're committing to the trip. In the past, I know Tanya reached directly out to students to do that. I have spoken to Ella Hall as well as a representative. You may be familiar with her. She's been involved. But I asked her perhaps to help us solicit students to be able to participate in that. I just asked her. It was a hallway conversation. I haven't talked to her parents about that. I haven't talked to Mr. Anyway, yeah, that's why we were talking about having eighth graders involved in babysitting.
As a fundraiser for the trip, is that
In the
what you're
past,
saying?
that's the way it's been
Yeah.
marketed.
Okay,
When Tanya was running it. And we thought that would be a nice tie-in to earmark that 15,000 that would go toward helping students to the trip. The other thing, yeah, anyway, that's that. So that, just to name what was happening.
look at that.
That's for sure.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, the 13th is our first, October 13th is our first babysitting night. And we're calling kids night out. So we want to give kids an opportunity to have fun. But anyway, so I guess that's kind of why urgency here for us.
We don't have, I mean, like, I haven't even reviewed the dates.
I think they were given in that one document. I mean.
Yeah, and so I had
To see
like
if they-
questions about the event, and so I didn't even review the dates, because I wanted to make sure that we had a common understanding about the event itself, and I hadn't like received a response on that.
Response from us.
I can't remember who sent it, where I had shared my feedback. I
It was-
can't remember.
Yeah, it's treasure.
Okay. I may or may not have been copied on that, so I'm gonna take a look and then maybe I'll ask for if we can follow up. I put other there, it's not necessarily a school event, but this past winter, there was a Lunar Year parade. And other schools had a float. I am very interested in having a float. So.
First standing ovation.
I know, right? I've never seen that. So I guess I'd like to explore that possibility, I don't know what that's gonna look like, or in terms of fundraising or whatever it takes, but and it's not necessarily just for that parade. We've doing quite a few events for the school and for the community, and I just thought it was great. So I'll see what I can do, but more to come on that.
This babysitting night, I mean, if they're trying to do this October 13th, it hasn't been reviewed or voted on.
I know.
I mean, we can do like a tentative, like we can do a vote, and then I can always just say no, like the LSC has approved it, but I might say no, depending on if it's in conflict with the school for that particular thing.
Right. Is it possible?
Yeah, because if it is okay, I don't want to also hold them back from.
So, right, so is it possible, there are going to be a series of these, right? Is it possible, in the spirit of being preemptive, is it possible to, and it's not an agenda item anyway, but preemptively or conditionally approve this upcoming babysitting night, provided it doesn't involve students?
So in the form that it existed before, like
Correct.
Rebecca.
Yes, because then it's not a fun, so the issue is that this is a leasing, it's not a fundraiser because there's no money being collected on school grounds. So it's really a matter of the leasing agreement. And
Okay.
so we can vote on the approval of the leasing agreement without
Student
students.
involvement for this one,
Mhm.
while we work out the details for any future events that would involve the students.
Yeah,
'Cause it
but
sounds
all
like
of
you have
these
some
would
stuff that
be
you
leasing,
discuss.
none of them would be fundraising approvals. All of them would be
Understood.
leasing agreements.
Understood.
And so we can also just like vote to approve all of the dates that were
Okay.
listed, but then I can then go back. Because ultimately it's LSC approves, principal approves, district approves.
Got it.
And so, like, I think it's okay if the LSC chooses to approve, like, as a measure, I can also just like sort of say, no, this doesn't work because of this date, and then we can amend the dates
Okay.
later.
How you guys feel about that? Okay.
And in that case, it doesn't even matter. I think we need to work out how students are involved, because
Right.
like, if you choose to involve students, it's in a way that the school is not communicating
Right.
that.
Currently.
And so it doesn't matter like how you're structuring it, but if you're trying to get the school to communicate it, then that shifts it. So if you're doing it all on your own, then there's no issue.
Yeah, I think,
Even if it takes place in the school building? Okay.
Because of the leasing agreement.
yeah, okay.
I need to see a
So
flow chart.
you're gonna secure
What's
the
that?
dates.
I need to see a flow
I
chart.
know, right?
For now, you're securing the dates in agreement, but how you structure,
Then that can be discussed later.
it'll be discussed and you will
Okay.
have time to.
And I mean, do we have a problem because it wasn't specifically, spelled out as a agenda item to vote? I don't want to run afoul of anything.
It says babysitting night.
It does, it's there.
Yeah,
Okay, very good. So the dates again,
They're listed in the documents I don't have for me right now.
where we are? I'm kidding.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, I think, I mean,
Because I didn't.
I'm gonna try, my apologies, I need to speak, put you on the spot.
That's okay. I do have the dates in here somewhere. Yeah, kids night. The dates are October 13th. These are all Fridays. November 3rd. December 8th. January 26th, that's when there's another parent mixing. February 23rd. March 8th. April 12th. And May 10th.
Now I have one without me, right? I have to go for an anniversary dinner.
no.
You ain't on 2
We
minutes?
don't have.
Oh.
No, we don't actually.
I have the
2
anniversary.
minutes, 2 minutes,
Margaret needs to wait.
I know.
just 2 minutes. So I'd like to put in a motion to approve leasing agreements for babysitting nights on the dates of October 13, November 3rd, December 8th, January 26th, February 23rd, March 8th, April 12th, May 10th.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Oh,
Oh, sorry.
thank you. All right. So subject to.
Thanks.
to all that's okay.
Appreciate that.
Next item real quick is public participation. Hi.
Hi. What's your name?
Well, we have a community vacancy, so.
Oh, I recognize you. I think we know each other through channels.
So wait, so you do have. Okay. Got it. Okay.
Thank you
Very
for
good.
coming.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
All right, and yes, sir.
Oh, can I?
Yeah, you can, you're
I
really.
remember what I was gonna say, like student voices, and the CAWB.
Yes.
I think it could be a valuable, opportunity to get some of that stuff. But I think if we're willing to listen and have hard discussions. So, we were talking, Eleanor last year, when she was in second grade, so 7 years old, and we were talking about. One of her classmates who got, understanding class and how it felt uneven. And so we talked about bias on the part of, teachers, and so as explaining what racial bias was. And I explained that children of color will get disciplined at different levels for the same thing for other children. So I told her to start paying attention in class, and so she would come back and say, yes, she saw, you know, X, Y, and Z person misbehave, who were white, and they would not get in trouble or get called out. And at the same time, she would see her friend do something of a similar type and would get called out for that. And that's like on the second grade level, and that's just kind of, so I think that if we're ready to understand what that, you know, listen to, teach students about that and to pay attention and to, I don't know how it can happen, but it's. But that's like,
So.
There's an impact on everybody.
That's fine. And so specifically about that comment, the larger part of our penultimate, so the meeting before last revolved around this. How do we, 5 through 8, you know, they've had the experience, and there's a little bit more interaction, and there are some tools that are there to facilitate that kind of discussion. Even, you know, we talked about the student surveys. These are student-led surveys. But what do we do for the younger ones? Like, how do we get their feedback? Because there are some that won't talk, or I mean, the range or the spectrum is quite wide. And so there were lots of ideas that were kicked around, but the bottom line was that there was a need to really sit down and really think about how we get that feedback and how do we get them to express themselves. There was even a comment that was said, it's always the same kids. It's always the same kids that and you know, there was a little bit of a funny thing with this, like, well, because we also see those same kids' parents, right? Like, just being in different positions of leadership throughout or in different parent groups. So it's really, I think you're right. We really need to figure out a way to get them involved at the earlier stages. And yeah, so there was a lot to talk about, but I was glad that was brought up because, you know, I felt like it could have been overlooked because we always look at the ones that can actually talk as opposed to the ones that are learning how to get to that point.
And that also just sends a message to kids who are not, to white kids too. You know, it sends a message that this is who's getting disciplined, and maybe some kids who are white say internally to themselves, well, that's not cool. But others might say, well, I guess that's just because they're being bad, you know? So you looked like you wanted to say something else. Alvin? You looked like you were going to say something else.
I was going to say 2 things. In the 5th grade, people and their friends also confronted their teacher about racial bias, and that was without any kind of parent involvement. So how to like figure out that appropriate that, like, but it was also like we found out about it after the fact, and so I don't know like how that's measured or how that feeds back into the CAB review process.
I think
the other thing is that Kenny's texting me asking me to leave me that.
Yeah, I think that's where like the student created surveys
Yeah.
are gonna be extremely important.
Good. All right, announcements, comments. Start thinking about the float, start visualizing that. All right. Next item, checking on norms. Again, this was a very important conversation, so thanks to everyone for the feedback, the comments. I thought that, you know, we'll continue to have a few more people every now and then trickling in. And then thank you for joining as well. Very good. With that, motion to adjourn. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
I say,
I got nobody here, so we're basic and we can't really
No
vote.
voting, yes.
We're here forever.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Adolfo. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, have a good night.
And then